It's Friday the 8th of May from Channel M's newsroom. This is the Lunchtime News and these are today's headlines. Tough questions for MPs as details of their expenses claims come out.
I think it's not fair that taxpayers have to fork out, you know. I mean, the country's in meltdown at the moment as it is, so...
Also coming up, claims we're not doing enough to keep children safe on the roads.
It is quite bad. I've been hitting the past myself and I've had cars swerve around me before now.
And taking extra time off, staff at one Manchester firm being told to leave the office early on Friday afternoons.
It literally is to increase motivation, so I think especially in current climate, so we have been doing it for 6 years, but current climate, when people are feeling, you know, things are not so great, then obviously it gives the opportunity for them to spend more time with friends and family.
Good afternoon. First this lunchtime. Thousands of pounds of new furniture, a new boiler, luxurious hanging baskets, just some of the things some of our cabinet ministers have tried to claim for on their expenses and often for second homes. It's the row that won't go away and now it's intensified with details of claims from 13 MPs being made public, among them Lee's Andy Burnham and Hazel Blears, who represents Salford. Ben Bland has been to her constituency to get reaction.
Absolutely ridiculous. They're all out to line their own pockets. They're not doing anything for us. No, I think it's scandalous.
It might not be against the law, but at the same time, you can't really justify it, especially at the moment with the recession and the credit crunch.
Oh, you're taking the mick?
No, honestly.
That's wrong.
Why can't we have free houses and get everything like that by? Why can they do it and we can't?
Can we put in a claim off our taxes that we've paid for years for our furniture, for our kids' clothes or things like that? No? So they've done something wrong, haven't they?
I think it's not fair that taxpayers have to fork out, you know. I mean, the country's in meltdown at the moment as it is.
A spokesman for Hazel Blears said that in order to do her job as MP for Salford, she needs a home in London near the House of Commons during the week. He went on to say that her parliamentary expenses claims were all within the rules. The rules are all outlined in this document, the Green Book, but it runs to more than 60 pages, and some feel that certain MPs have been exploiting the system and that it now needs changing. And Hazel Blears isn't the only cabinet member facing potential embarrassment over these revelations. Gordon Brown claimed twice for the same plumbing bill, which he's now repaid. Over 2 years, he also claimed more than £6,000 for a cleaner. The Foreign Secretary, David Miliband, spent hundreds of pounds on pot plants for his constituency home. Even the gardener is said to have asked if it was necessary. The Lee MP and Culture Secretary Andy Burnham tried to claim for a pram. He's also reported to have told the parliamentary authorities that his wife might divorce him if his expenses were not paid quickly. And John Prescott may now be known as 2 seats rather than 2 Jags after claiming for 2 toilet seats in 2 years. Ben Bland, Channel M News.
Tests on the body of a policewoman who died after a car crash in Bolton show she was killed by severe head injuries. PC Claire Howarth from Tottington was taken to hospital early yesterday morning but died later. Her silver BMW had left the road and she had to be cut free. It's understood officers don't think her injuries match the damage done to her car. Her fiancé and fellow police officer Martin Forshaw is being questioned on suspicion of murder. Her colleagues have spoken of how they, along with her family and friends, are distraught by what's happened. Investigators are looking into what caused a fire at a building used as a Sikh temple in Strangeways. They don't think the blaze, which broke out at around 11:30 last night, was suspicious. When firefighters arrived on Barker Street in Cheetham Hill, they found 2 floors of the building well alight. 70 of them were needed to stop the flames spreading to the rest of the site. We're getting reports of a fire at a factory in Cheetham Hill. It broke out a little over an hour ago at the site, close to a caravan park on Roger Street. 4 fire crews are there at the moment. It's not clear if anyone was in the building at the time. More on that as and when we get it. A report says we're not doing enough to keep children safe on our roads. It's found the safety of young people walking in traffic is so poor we rank 17th out of 24 developing nations. Beverly Walkden's on this.
From spy cameras to speed zones, when it comes to road safety for school kids, it seems we're still failing them. A report out by the Department for Transport ranks Britain 17th out of 24 countries for child pedestrian deaths. One of the highest profile cases of road deaths was schoolgirl Amber Locke, who died on this busy stretch of road just over 4 years ago. Now, the community around here launched a massive and successful campaign to finally slow speeds down. But campaigners are often hindered by bureaucracy and red tape. One key point raised by the National Audit Office on the report points out there needs to be more transparency about how the figures on road accidents and deaths are compiled. The number of road deaths are declining, but at a slower rate than road injuries, signalling more needs to be done. Beverly Walkden for Channel M News.
A man's been arrested after a cannabis farm was found in Oldham. Police spotted 2 men acting suspiciously on Ripondon Road on Wednesday morning. One man ran away, but a second was arrested for suspected immigration offences. After he was questioned, officers raided a derelict takeaway and found 576 cannabis plants with an estimated street value of £150,000. Expect delays next week if your usual route into Manchester takes you down Oxford Street and Oxford Road. Parts of it will be shut in phases so that engineers can work on the water main. They'll be digging up what is one of the busiest bus routes in Europe. They'll carry out the upgrade in phases to try to minimise disruption. All traffic except buses will have to be rerouted. Staff at a shop in Levenshulme have been threatened at knife point during a robbery. 2 men went into the store on Henderson Street just before 11 o'clock last Friday morning, threatening the 71-year-old man in charge with a kitchen knife and demanding cash. One of them went over to the counter and intimidated the victim further, so he handed over money from the till. The pair then ran off. A former soldier who was hailed a hero for saving a policeman during the UEFA Cup riots in Manchester last year has been exposed as a liar. Tom Bardsley's been convicted of wasting police time, raising questions over whether he lied about his actions last May. Here's Nina Warhurst.
Now, the former soldier who emerged a hero of last week's Rangers riots was today reunited with the police officer he saved.
This is Tom Bardsley with PC Mick Regan, the man he says he risked his own life to save when he was knocked down by hooligans following the UEFA Cup final last May. The former army medic who served in Iraq with the Royal Engineers says it's him running in here to help Mick and him who guided the police officer to safety.
And I noticed the police officer on the floor and I thought no one's helping him. The bloke next to me was running in with a kick, but I managed to give him a hard enough nudge and an elbow to his face to push him away, which then at this point I grabbed Mick and said, "I'm British Army," and obviously dragged him away.
But this is Bardsley outside court, where he's now been found guilty of wasting police time by setting up a hoax rescue last November. Manchester magistrates heard how Bardsley had called 999 last November, saying that he'd pulled a man from the water in Castlefield, but that he'd jumped back in. His call prompted a massive search involving 15 firefighters, 6 police officers, a rescue boat and even a helicopter. But the bench said they found his story sketchy and inconsistent. Police officers gave evidence saying there was no water by the side of the canal and that Bardsley's clothes were dry. And so he was found guilty. All this just 3 months after he was given a suspended sentence for impersonating a police officer. And now some of PC Mick Regan's colleagues say this casts massive doubt on whether he was actually the man who saved their friend. Earlier I spoke to Chris Bardsley, who refused to come on camera but said, "I stand by what I did for Mick and I don't understand why I'm being treated this way." The official line from Greater Manchester Police is that Tom Bardsley's account of events on that fateful night exactly matches that of Regan's. Whether Tom Bardsley's story is true or not, as war heroes across the Commonwealth are celebrated today, many will see it as a tragedy that this man who found the courage to serve his country in Iraq now faces up to 6 months in prison for making a mockery of those who serve his country at home, the British police force that just a few months ago he dreamt of joining. Nina Warhurst, Channel M News.
Police are urging football fans visiting Old Trafford for this weekend's derby between United and City to use a safe and secure car park. They say criminals have been operating illegal car parks around the stadium and have been directing vehicles to residential areas or private land which are subject to parking restrictions. The villains are even removing official signs that state what restrictions are in place, which could lead to landowners clamping vehicles. Right, let's take a look at the lunchtime sports headlines now. With those details, here's Ian Irving.
Thanks, James. Well, plenty to get through today, and we'll start with news from last night's League Two semi-finals, where Bury gained the upper hand at Shrewsbury thanks to a bizarre 81st-minute own goal by Neil Ashton. But the news from Scotland wasn't as good, with Rochdale playing out a goalless draw with Gillingham. However, despite Dale's Frank Fielding being the busiest of the keepers, Rochdale boss Keith Hill was far from unhappy.
Well, I'm happy. I'm happy we kept a clean sheet. It was a good display, confidence-boosting display. It was a good game. Two competitive sides, two different shapes and formations, two different tactics, but the outcome is a goalless draw, and we're happy with a clean sheet. We're happy to take a clean sheet to Gillingham, and we're happy for Gillingham to probably and possibly come out at us a little bit more at home, and that'll create opportunities for us because we're very good at counter-attacking.
Were you surprised at how tight the game was?
No, not really. I think there was an indication of that on Saturday. You know, they scored a goal, albeit from one of our set plays. Curtis Weston run the full length of the pitch and possibly should have got a penalty, but he got up to convert the rebound. So it was very tight on Saturday. Not an awful lot gained on Saturday, not an awful lot to be measured by, but it gives us an indication of how tight the game could possibly be. And it was tight tonight, but it was played at a good tempo. There was a lot of good quality on show, and I thought it was a very absorbing and entertaining match, and I was really pleased to be part of it.
On to cricket now, and rain delayed the start of play on day 3 of the first test between England and the West Indies. The home side are in control and had an overnight lead of 186 runs, thanks mainly to an incredible performance from Graham Onions on his debut, who took 5 wickets for 38 runs, including 4 in just 7 balls. The West Indies began the morning on 39 for 2, and they've now moved on to 44 for 2. Lancashire also have the upper hand in their county championship game at Worcester, where the home side ended day 2 on 129 for 3, still 51 runs behind Lanc's first innings total of 347. The home side are now 196 for 3. News on the Manchester derby in a few moments, but before that, Steve Bruce's Wigan travel to West Brom tomorrow with only 1 goal from their previous 4 games, and the boss knows where his side's problems lie.
If you look at the whole season, that's been our Achilles heel. We've took great pride in our defensive organisation, which we have to be, for a club like ours. But we haven't scored enough, and certainly the games against Blackburn, against Bolton in particular last week, if we had took the chances, then we'd have been away and running, and it's unfortunate, but there you are. I'm not putting the blame on strikers. It's a team. You defend as a team and you attack as a team, and the really, really great teams have goals from everywhere. And as a team, we haven't scored enough.
And of course, Bolton Wanderers are also in action tomorrow at home to Sunderland, and boss Gary Megson has taken the opportunity to praise goalkeeper Jussi Jääskeläinen, who's been granted a testimonial this week.
Most people recognise the qualities that Jussi's got. He's certainly not underrated and certainly not undervalued at this place. But he made a mistake that seemed to just give him a little bit of a jolt, and then he's made 3 or 4 really top-class saves. He did get the headlines, and people from Wigan did say, that the game would have been all over for Jussi, but he didn't have a save to make in the second half, and that was down to the qualities of the other people in front of him. And what we're looking for this weekend is that we play for 90 minutes, as we have done for the second 45 in the last few games, because we've not been doing enough to enable ourselves to get the results. We've been reacting to what the opposition have done.
Right, on to the derby now, and Manchester City are hoping to record only their second back-to-back victory at Old Trafford in 37 years on Sunday. However, boss Mark Hughes has only managed to record 2 victories as a manager in 8 attempts against Sir Alex Ferguson. United enter the game knowing they require just 7 points from their remaining 12 games in order to be crowned Premier League champions for the 11th time. And we'll have more build-up to that game from 5 o'clock. One player who definitely missed the game, though, is Wes Brown. He's suffered a recurrence of his foot problem and won't play again this season. Joey Barton has been linked with a move back to the northwest, with Bolton believed to be interested. And 2 managers who could be back at work very soon are former Oldham boss John Sheridan, linked with a move to Chesterfield, and Jim Gannon made redundant by Stockport County this week, but believed to be attracting the attention of Blackpool. Well, good luck to Glossop North End this weekend in their FA Vase final at Wembley. We'll have more on that at 5:02. And finally, news from the world of boxing, where Ricky Hatton is rumoured to be lining up a farewell fight with Michael Katsidis in Manchester before the end of the year. That's all your sport for now. Back to James.
Ian, thanks very much for the update. An exhibition is on to celebrate how the power of football brings together people from so many nations here in Manchester. It's been organised to coincide with the New England shirt going on show here for the first time and features people who live in the city but who originally came from other countries.
We're here to launch the exhibit Tailored by England, which is our look at what Englishness is in 2009. We found out that there were 209 different nationalities currently resident.
England.
Poland.
Zimbabwe.
Mexico.
Russia.
Chile.
England.
Indonesia.
We wanted to bring them together in one place and put them in the England shirt as a representation of what it really means to be English today. The exhibition's going to be running on Friday, May 8th and Saturday, May 9th. It's very interesting to not only look at what Englishness means here, but what it means overseas and the way people relate to English culture.
Now, stay with us. Still to come, why Oxfam stores are finding the recession tough and the Manchester office where staff are getting to knock off early on a Friday for the whole summer.
But when people are feeling, things are not so great, then obviously it gives the opportunity for them to spend more time with friends and family.
This is Friday's Lunchtime News. Welcome back. A quick reminder, if you go online to channelm.co.uk, you can take a look at this programme again or indeed any of our other reports. Right now, there's reaction to changes to primary school tests and a Channel M exclusive as we speak to the internet tycoon who thinks his reputation's in tatters despite being cleared of sexual assault. That's at channelm.co.uk. Back now to our top story and the row about MPs' expenses that just won't go away. Details of claims for 13 MPs have come out, showing thousands of pounds of new furniture, boilers, even toilet seats and luxurious hanging baskets that they've tried to claim for. Among them, Lee's Andy Burnham, as well as Hazel Blears, whose constituents in Salford are not impressed.
Absolutely ridiculous. They're all out to line their own pockets. They're not doing anything for us. No, I think it's scandalous.
It might not be against the law, but at the same time, you can't really justify it, especially at the moment with the recession and the credit crunch.
Oh, you're taking the mick.
No, honestly.
That's wrong.
Why can't we have free houses and get everything like that? Why can they do it and we can't?
Can we put in a claim off our taxes that we've paid for years for our furniture, for our kids' clothes or things like that? No, so they've done something wrong, haven't they?
I think it's not fair that taxpayers have to fork out, I mean, the country's in meltdown at the moment as it is.
One of Manchester's major employers wants more bosses to follow its lead and give staff Friday afternoons off. It's an idea that they've been trying for several years to cut the number of people pulling sickies, as Kevin Duffy's been finding out.
An office full of empty desks doesn't necessarily mean that the credit crunch has taken its toll of yet another company. It might just be a sign of a sympathetic employer, if an idea which has been dreamed up by one local firm catches on elsewhere. Kellogg's in Trafford Park call it summer hours, and admin staff get Friday afternoon off if they've done 36.6 hours.
It literally is to increase motivation, so I think especially in current climate, so we have been doing it for 6 years, but current climate, when people are feeling, things are not so great, then obviously it gives the opportunity for them to spend more time with friends and family. So it's all about increasing our motivation and the feel-good factor for working for Kellogg's.
Now, the company does already have flexible working, so it might be viewed as a bit of a publicity stunt, but it's food for thought. Could it catch on with other employers?
I think to be able to have a one-size-fits-all for all businesses is perhaps a little bit impractical. For example, Fridays off works for Kellogg's. It may well be that some of the businesses will want to spread that out across a week. Certainly they'll know what works best for their businesses. As you said, we are in a recession.
If you did have a spare Friday afternoon, you might just pass the time over a newspaper in your favourite coffee shop. Or maybe take a walk around and look at some of that magnificent architecture that you normally hurry past on the way to work. Or you could simply find a comfortable spot and sit and watch the world go by. Now, the big issue here is, will the boss let you do it? Well, I'm going to give it a go. So this is Kevin Duffy taking Friday afternoon off for Channel M.
Well, I don't blame him. And how do you fancy having the afternoon off? And what do you think your bosses will make of it? Those are just some of the questions that we've been out asking.
I'd just probably do something nice. Don't know, hopefully it'd be sunny, so go outside, do something, maybe sit in a park.
Well, I'd probably go on a day trip, or go and visit a cinema or opera or whatever, or a sports.
I would take a long weekend and go somewhere nice, or I think I'd organise my life on Friday and then enjoy the rest of the weekend.
Friday? Oh. Well, I'm researching family history at the moment, so I'll probably spend some time doing that.
I think you have to, the work-life balance is, I mean, it's on a piece of paper. I don't see this exist. They just work pressurized to do work hard and hard. It's not sort of satisfaction. Employees are never satisfied, I feel.
Oxfam says it's struggling for donations. There's been a 12% drop in the amount of second-hand goods being handed over to the charity shop in the last year. They think it's because fewer people are moving house, but bosses say demand from people spending in their stores is just as high.
We've got empty racks, things aren't coming in. I think people are tightening their belts. I also think that people aren't shopping in as much as they used to be. I think, they are hanging on to the money. We've seen a massive decrease in homewares, bric-a-brac, and I think that's due to the fact people are selling it on, car booting it, things like that. Clothing again, I think people in the credit crunch are hanging on to things and not replacing them. It all goes to a good cause. We do fantastic work globally and in this country, and instead of it staying in the wardrobe, give it to Oxfam.
Carphone Warehouse has announced it's doing a deal to buy the UK arm of the troubled broadband firm Tiscali. The takeover will cost £236 million. It'll give the high street store 4.25 million broadband subscribers and will confirm its position as the country's biggest residential broadband provider. Tiscali had been on the brink of collapse. Marks & Spencer's admitted it boobed by putting up the price of bras for its bigger busted customers. Larger sizes were costing up to £2 more, angering more than 11,000 women who joined a Facebook group called Busts for Justice against the change. Bosses at the high street store say they'll bring all the prices in line with one another from tomorrow. Right, let's look ahead now to the weekend's weather with the forecast. Here's Billy Walker.
Well, the good news is it's Friday, but the bad news is that, like last bank holiday weekend, this one's not going to be much better weather-wise. As you can see from the board, there's a little bit of sunshine there up in the north towards Accrington and Preston, but coming further south, Manchester, Stockport, we are actually seeing more rain, and believe it or not, the signs of some thunder and lightning as well. That might be one to watch out for. My top tip for this weekend will be wherever it is that you're heading to, make sure you have an umbrella with you, and also maybe a coat, because the temperatures are dropping as well, as you can see on Saturday, 3 degrees.
This is Channel M, our top stories. More pressure is being put on the government over MPs' expenses after details of claims by 13 cabinet members were published in one of the papers. They show Gordon Brown switched his second home allowance to his Scottish house just before moving into Downing Street so he could claim for the property in Fife. Salford MP Hazel Blears furnished 3 homes with £5,000 worth of furniture, but there's no suggestion any of them have actually broken the rules, but critics say the rules need to be tighter. Tests on the body of a policewoman who died after a car crash in Bolton show she was killed by severe head injuries. PC Claire Howarth from Tottington was taken to hospital early yesterday but died later. Her fiancé and fellow police officer Martin Forshaw is being questioned on suspicion of murder. And a report says not enough's being done to keep children safe on our roads. It's calling for separate targets for those killed and those injured. Those are today's headlines, and that was the Lunchtime News. Much more on all those stories with Andy Crane from 5 tonight, but from me and the team here, have a good weekend. Bye-bye for now.